You are carrying someone who no longer answers. The body is heavier than it was yesterday. Not because the person changed, because your world did. There is no hospital bed, no ambulance, no funeral home waiting behind a glass door. There is only a small group of tired people. The smell of smoke, the sound of insects, and the sudden knowledge that a voice your group depended on has gone silent. So what do? For most of human history, death did not happen somewhere else. It happened in the camp, in the cave, under a tree, beside a fire that still had to be fed. And when someone died, your ancestors faced two problems at the same time. One was practical, the other was impossible. The practical problem was the body. A body changes quickly. It cools, it stiffens, it smells. It attracts insects, scavengers, and sometimes predators. If your camp is small and food is scarce, you cannot pretend this is only a private sadness. Death becomes a danger that everyone can smell. But the impossible problem was the person, because the body in front of you was not just meat. It was the hunter who knew where the river bent. It was the grandmother who remembered which root made children sick. It was the child whose laugh had filled the shelter yesterday. How do you move something like that out of the camp? This is why the ancient human response to death was never just one thing. Sometimes your ancestors moved the body away. Sometimes they placed it carefully into the ground. Sometimes they used red pigment, shells, animal bones, flowers, or tools. And sometimes the only honest answer is that archaeologists still argue over what they were trying to say. Death is one of the hardest parts of prehistory to read. A stone tool can show how it was made. A hearth can show where a fire burned. But a burial is different. A burial is an action frozen in the ground, and the feeling behind it does not fossilize. So scientists have to ask smaller questions. Was the body placed there carefully? Was there a pit? Were the bones arranged in a way that natural forces would not create? Were objects placed beside the dead? Were those objects useful, symbolic, accidental, or something in between? This is where the story begins to change. At Qafzeh Cave, in what is now Israel, excavations led by Bernard Vandermeersch helped reveal some of the most famous early burials of anatomically modern humans. Anatomically modern simply means bodies shaped much like yours. The Qafzeh remains are often dated to around 90,000 years ago, and several bodies appear to have been placed deliberately in the ground. One of them was a child. Another was buried with deer antlers near the hands. You cannot know what the people standing there believed, but you can see the care. The dead were not simply thrown away. They were positioned. They were remembered through action. They were given a place. Nearby, Skull Cave also preserves early human remains from a similar deep period. These sites matter because they show something that feels familiar, but also strange. Your ancestors were not building stone churches. They were not writing names on grave markers. They were not recording prayers. But they were already changing the landscape around death. They were making a decision. This body belongs here. And that decision is not small. In 2025, researchers working at Tinshemet Cave in central Israel reported another important window into this ancient behavior. The remains there, dated to roughly 100,000 years ago, were found in burial pits, with bodies arranged carefully, and objects such as ochre, basalt stones, and animal remains nearby. Ochre is an iron-rich mineral pigment, often red, and in prehistoric sites it appears again and again wherever humans were doing things that mattered. Red is the color of blood. Red is the color of heat. Red is the color that makes a dead body look, for one last moment, connected to life. Does that mean ancient people believed in an afterlife? Maybe, but archaeology has to be careful. A red stone beside a body is not a sentence. It is not a confession. It is evidence of attention. And sometimes attention is already powerful enough. Now, imagine the scene. Someone has died during a cold morning. The group does not speak loudly. The children stand at the edge of the shelter, watching adults do something they have seen before, but never fully understood. A few people dig with antler, stone, and hand. The ground is stubborn, Every scoop is work. Every moment costs energy your group could have used for food, firewood, or protection. And still, they keep digging. Why? Because leaving the body where it fell would be faster. Because walking away would be easier. Because grief has always been expensive. That is one of the first truths buried in these ancient graves. Funerals cost time. Burial costs calories. Decoration costs labor. When your ancestors placed beads, antlers, tools, or pigment with the dead, they were spending limited resources on someone who could no longer hunt, gather, carry, or speak. That sounds irrational, unless the dead were still doing something for the living. A grave can protect a body from scavengers. It can protect the camp from decay. It can mark a place in memory. It can tell the group that this person mattered. It can teach children that belonging does not end the moment breath stops. And that might have been one of the most human things your ancestors ever learned. Neanderthals complicate the story even more. For a long time, people imagined Neanderthals as brutish, simple, and almost human, but not quite. Then, sites like Shanidar Cave in Iraqi Kurdistan forced that picture to crack. In the 1950s and 1960s, archaeologist Ralph Selecki uncovered several Neanderthal skeletons there. One of them, Shanidar 1, had severe injuries that had healed. He had likely lost the use of one arm, had damage to the face, and still survived for years. That means someone helped him. Someone shared food. Someone tolerated weakness. Someone allowed an injured body to remain part of the group. Care before death changes how you understand care after death. Another Shanidar skeleton became famous as the so-called flower burial. Pollen found near the body was studied by Arlette Leroy-Gourhan, and for years, people imagined Neanderthals laying flowers on the dead. Later researchers challenged that idea. Perhaps rodents carried pollen into the burial area. Perhaps the flowers were not intentional at all. Then new excavations led by Emma Pomeroy and her colleagues found more Neanderthal remains near the same area, including an articulated upper body. Articulated means the bones were still connected in their natural order. That does not automatically prove a funeral, but it does make the scene harder to dismiss. A body placed in a particular spot. A cave used again and again. The dead near the dead. What does that tell you? Not that Neanderthals were exactly like you. Not that they held the same beliefs, but that death was not meaningless to them. At La Chapelle-aux-Saints in France, another Neanderthal burial has been debated for more than a century. Research involving William Rendu and colleagues argued that the body was intentionally placed in a pit. Other scholars have pushed back on different Neanderthal burial claims because natural pits, cave collapses, and animal disturbance can fool the eye. That debate matters. It keeps the story honest. Ancient death was not always ceremonial. Not every skeleton in a cave is a grave. Not every strange object is a symbol. Sometimes, bodies ended up where they did because of accidents, floods, animals, or collapsed rock. But when the evidence lines up, when the pit, position, preservation, and surrounding objects all point in the same direction, a pattern begins to appear. Your ancestors did not simply survive death. They organized around it. By the Upper Paleolithic, the period when humans were making more complex art and ornaments, some burials became astonishing. At Sungir, east of modern Moscow, archaeologists found burials dating to around 34,000 years ago. Eric Trinkhaus and Alexandra Buzilova studied remains from the site, including children buried with thousands of mammoth ivory beads, spears, and red ochre. Imagine the labor behind that. Each bead had to be carved, shaped, drilled, and probably sewn onto clothing. Thousands of beads. For children. Children who had not become great hunters. Children who had not led the group. Children whose graves still received an almost shocking investment. What does that mean? It may mean status could be inherited. It may mean certain families carried special identity. It may mean the group saw children as more than what they could produce. It may mean grief made people give extravagantly, even when the dead could not use the gifts. Or it may mean all of those things at once. Ancient death was practical, emotional, and social. The same act could solve many problems. Burying someone could remove danger, mark territory, express grief, and strengthen group memory. A grave was not only a place for the dead, it was a message to the living. This is the part that is easy to miss. A funeral is not only about the person who died, it is about everyone who remains. When your ancestors gathered around a body, they were also gathering around each other. The group had to agree on what to do. Someone had to lead. Someone had to touch the body. Someone had to calm the children. Someone had to remember the songs, the gestures, the place, or the rule. Even if there was no formal religion yet, there was already shared behavior. And shared behavior is the beginning of ritual. Ritual does not have to mean temples, priests, or written prayers. In plain English, a ritual is an action repeated because people believe the action matters. It can be simple. Wash the body. Place the knees close. Put red pigment near the head. Cover the grave. Return later. Tell the story again. Repeat it for the next person. And the next. At Raqefet cave on Mount Carmel, much later, around 13,000 years ago, a Natufian burial site preserved evidence that flowers or aromatic plants may have lined graves. The Natufian people lived near the edge of farming, in communities that were becoming more settled. Research by Danny Nadell and colleagues found plant impressions and tiny plant remains that suggest graves were prepared with flowering plants. Think about that for a second. A soft lining, a smell, a final bed. By then, death was not just something to remove from camp. It was becoming something staged, remembered, and maybe even visited. As people stayed in one place longer, the dead could stay nearby longer too. Cemeteries began to anchor communities to land. The living could point and say, "This is where your people are." That changes everything. A mobile group can carry memory and stories. A settled group can place memory in the ground. But the deepest pattern is older than farming, older than villages, older than writing. When someone died, ancient humans had to decide what the body meant. Was it danger? Was it family? Was it a person who had left? Was it a person still present in some invisible way? Your ancestors may not have answered those questions the way you do, but they asked them with their hands. They dug, they carried, they decorated, they covered, they returned. And in those actions, you can see the beginning of something that still lives inside modern grief. Today, death is often hidden from daily life. A body is moved by professionals. A funeral is scheduled by phone. A grave is marked by carved stone or a digital obituary. You may see death through screens more often than through touch, but your body is older than that system. That is why a smell, a song, a piece of clothing, or an empty chair can hit harder than logic. Your brain does not treat the dead as an idea. It treats them as someone missing from the circle. Someone whose place has changed, but not vanished. Ancient people knew that feeling without needing words for psychology. They knew the silence after a voice disappeared. They knew the danger of doing nothing. They knew the need to do something, even if no action could fix the loss. And that may be the counterintuitive truth. Burial may not have begun because humans had grand theories about heaven. It may have begun because love, danger, memory, and survival collided in the same place. The body had to be moved. The person could not simply be erased, so your ancestors created a third option. They made a place where the body could leave the camp, while the person stayed inside the story. That is what a grave can be, not proof of one exact belief, not a simple symbol, a compromise between biology and memory. When you look at Qafzeh, Shanidar, Sungir, or Raqefet, you are not looking at people who had everything figured out. You are looking at people facing the same impossible fact that still waits for everyone. A person can be gone and still matter. A body can be silent and still change the behavior of the living. So what did ancient humans do when someone died? They protected the camp. They carried the grief. They made meaning with the materials they had. Stone, pigment, flowers, beads, hands, earth. And maybe that is why, thousands of generations later, you still do not know how to simply walk away from the dead. Something ancient in you refuses to treat a person as an object. Something ancient in you wants a place, a gesture, a final act that says this life was not nothing. You are still carrying someone who no longer answers, but now you know your ancestors were carrying them too.